Yay Networks.
Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. I'm your host, Brit Mogensen, and today we are doing something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. You guys have requested it, so we're going to get into Taylor Swift's love life. We're going to look at what I'm calling why it didn't work with all of the guys she dated before, a little take on one of her songs, and we're just going to look at why it wasn't in the stars with certain people. Now, we all know that her dating life is something that's been public. We've all dated, but she happened to do it on the world stage. So we have the benefit of being able to look at the different astrological compatibility of Taylor Swift and each of these people that she's dated at different periods of her life. We're gonna look at why it didn't work based on moon sign, Venus sign, and Mars sign. And then we're also gonna talk about what cycle she was in according to personal year, which can kind of explain why she may have attracted these people at these times in her life. It's gonna be super interesting if I do say so myself. So let's get into it. All right, I'm excited about this. I'm obsessed with Taylor, who isn't these days, but just looking into this, you can really see astrology in the wild, as we like to say. So let's talk about the basics of looking at partnerships, what makes two people compatible, what can make things a little bit more difficult. And these are things that we can obviously all apply to our own lives as well. So the three things that I really think we should all look at when we're trying to see about romantic compatibility. You know, the sun sign is important. It's really good, I think, with friendships, with work, with you and personal growth. But when it comes to relationships, that's really just the surface. So we want to look at the moon sign, which talks about our deepest emotions, our needs, what we're also able to give to others. So it's really like our emotional makeup and who we are. That's the moon. The Venus sign, this is love, beauty, attraction, personal style, like we've talked about in past episodes. It also rules what really draws you in, the way you experience love and romance, what you might write a love song about. That's all described by the Venus sign. Then we have the Mars sign, and your Mars sign is really passionate. We're probably going to talk about this more in part 2 when she gets a little bit older and we see some really spicy relationships. But the Mars sign represents just your passion, your sexual energy, your overall desire, and then what makes you feel really almost like compulsively attracted to someone or something. It's not so much romantic. It's more like animal attraction. So that's going to be very important as well. So let's go ahead and start by talking about Taylor's chart. So if we look at Taylor's main relationship placements, her moon, Venus, and Mars, we see that she has a beautiful Cancer moon. Okay, I love this placement because Cancer is at home here with the moon. The moon rules Cancer. And so that means as far as emotions go, she's someone who really is at home in the world of emotions, which is one of the reasons I think she's able to express herself so beautifully in song in a way that we can all relate to, right? She kind of says what we've experienced, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. And that's because she has that moon in Cancer natal placement. So this makes her very sensitive, nurturing in relationships, emotionally intuitive. This also is a placement that really does seek security. So if you can imagine having a Cancer moon out there in the wild in Hollywood, dating these guys who are players and, older and maybe have a different agenda, you can see how a Cancer moon would really get kind of thrashed around and, would create some beautiful songs about heartbreak. So that kind of explains some of what she's been through. But also, these people, for them, when it comes to committing to a relationship, they want a relationship. They like being one-on-one with someone. And also, they can be really, really deep with relationships. This is the kind of person that intuitively can tell someone is going to be compatible with them. And it's like, it's full on, right? And we can kind of see her that way with like Travis Kelce, people from the past. So, okay, that's her moon sign, what she can give, what she looks for. All right, next is her Venus. So she has a very unconventional, quirky Venus in Aquarius. Now, this suggests someone that really does need independence. they're attracted to like, okay, like a sapiosexual, someone who's interested in like intellectual people. That would be very much her. So I think that's why she's dated a lot of people in the past who are like, like Joe Alwyn, for example. He was like very poetic and kind of mysterious. Was he really? I don't know, but he definitely put that out there, which would definitely attract someone with Venus in Aquarius. They like smart people. They like interesting people, people that are kind of like a little bit of a puzzle. So for her, this is kind of what pulls her in: intellectual stimulation, open-mindedness, and also people who are able to be friends with her. Friendship is really big with Aquarius because Aquarius rules that 7th or that 11th house of friendships and groups. So for her, it's really important to feel like this person is her friend. She can bring them around a group. They're just generally kind of lighthearted when it comes to love and relationships. They need that uplifting quality. Okay, and then she has her Mars in Scorpio, which is the most passionate placement. Oh my gosh. So just like how the moon is at home in Cancer, Mars is at home in Scorpio. So this is a very strong big three. And what that means, having that Mars in Scorpio when it comes to passion, there is a deep well of passion within her, which again, that's why I think she makes such transformative music, such music that kind of touches us to our very core. That's very Mars and Scorpio. It also explains her desire for revenge and the fact that she's like not afraid to talk about things that have happened to her. Mars and Scorpio, it's a truth-telling placement. So when that kind of applies to like your relationships, this is someone where there's really not a lot of ambiguity when it comes to dating her, but she wouldn't be attracted to that. This is a person who wants you to tell her things like straight up. She would probably confront someone with like her truth about a relationship, about commitment, things like that. So it's a very just intense, passionate, strong-willed placement. This person also would desire a very deep, transformative emotional connection. So they can also be a little bit possessive. There can be some jealousy things that you kind of work out at different parts in your life. And they're also very interested in like exploring the deeper hidden aspects. So people with Mars and Scorpio may experience relationships or be attracted to complex relationships until they get to a place where they feel like they've kind of matured out of that. So this also explains some of the complicated dynamics that she was attracted to when she was younger. Okay, so after we come back, we are going to start talking about public enemy number one, Joe Jonas. So where it all began, Joe Jonas, who infamously broke up with Taylor in a 27-second phone call. Now, it did not escape me that 27 seconds, if you add that up in numerology, comes to a 9. 9 is the number of endings and completion. So I'm going to say this. That whole relationship, the symbolism behind it, this was the first time I think Taylor had really experienced kind of a heartbreak or a letdown. In this part one of all of the men she's loved before, we're really going to talk about like the puppy love stage, right? So this would definitely be a puppy love relationship. And we all remember our first heartbreak, right? So that was Joe Jonas for her. And we kind of start to see, even from this young age, her being a truth teller. She actually exposed him on Ellen. She talked about it. I think it's one of the things that really endeared people to her because we could all see ourselves in her at that moment. And this happened in 2008 when Taylor was in an 8-year. An 8-year in numerology for your personal year, that's a time when you really learn about your own personal power. 8 is the number of power and abundance. So she started to come into that spotlight in a really bright way. Her relationships were definitely, it's just people wanted to know, who is she dating? What's going on? And she was really in her power, for good or bad, she put it out there and felt strong about it. So let's see why it didn't work out with them. All right. So this brief relationship, hold on one second. Okay. So if we look at why it didn't work out between these two, we can just look at their birth charts. For Joe, he has his moon in Aquarius, Mars in Virgo, and Venus in Virgo. Now, these placements, so Like what I like about this is the fact that his Mars and Venus are in Virgo, and that's very like grounded and nurturing. And when we're looking at that Cancer moon, I kind of look there first because, you have to feel emotionally safe before you can open up and move into like Venus and Mars energy. So I can see why she was drawn to him because people with Virgo, Mars, Virgo, Venus, they're very comforting. They kind of just feel like you've known them forever. But then if we look at his moon in Aquarius, even though Taylor has her Venus in Aquarius, again, it definitely makes sense why she would be attracted to him. But the problem here is that Venus in Aquarius really craves this, fun, detached nature. And so you could see that maybe she kind of got that from him in the beginning. But then when you get to that moon sign, what she needs to feel safe, the nurturing, the love, Cancer moon, you see that with his, moon in Aquarius, he's really not that type of person there. And I mean, I'm just going to make some blanket statements here. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't think that moon and Aquarius people even experience love the way that a moon in Cancer person does. For them, love is something that, it's a little bit, it moves quicker. It can be kind of fleeting at times. Like if we look at his relationship with Sophie Turner, 1 minute they were together, she was kind of blindsided because the next day they weren't. And she found out about it in the press. People with this Aquarius moon placement, they can just be detached when they want to be. It's something that they kind of have to work through. And so it's just very opposite to Taylor's need for security. And I think that being surprised by that phone call, I mean, being able to break up with someone in 27 seconds over the phone, no matter what age you are, I mean, that's definitely detached. So I think that was really the kiss of death for the relationship. His moon in Aquarius versus her moon in Cancer. Moving on to Lucas Till. Now, this was a very, very short-lived attraction, but he was the guy who played her next door neighbor in You Belong With Me. And she talked about having a crush on him, and it just kind of fizzled out. But let's check out his chart. Why was there a crush in the first place? So Lucas Till has his moon in Aries, red flag, again, when it comes to a Cancer moon compatibility. He also has his Mars in Taurus and his Venus in Aquarius. Okay. The Venus in Aquarius right away, having that placement means like, of course, they were going to be attracted to each other. If you have your Venus in the same sign as someone else, there's going to be a mutual attraction because both of you are looking for the same things. You give off the same romantic energy. Physically, you're going to be attracted to each other. So that totally makes sense for like a puppy love, crush type of love at first sight thing. But then when you get down to it, he has his Mars in Taurus. She has her Mars in Scorpio. Talk about locking horns. I mean, both are very powerful placements. So when you have a Taurus Mars, there can be a tendency to be kind of controlling and a little bit closed off until you really know someone. Taurus placements move very slowly. Now, Mars in Scorpio moves very quickly. So I would imagine that this whole relationship, very short-lived would play out like her having a crush on him, her kind of going for it, and then maybe him even being kind of scared off because of that Taurus Mars. They also like to move slowly so they stay in control. They need to feel safe. Any earth sign placement really craves safety and stability. So, there were some cute things there, some good things, but overall, I really think there was kind of a power struggle with the Mars placements. And then, so sometimes what brings you together, mutual Venus and Aquarius, it's not enough to keep you, together. All right, next, we have Taylor Lautner. Now, this is like when I really start to get intrigued because how recently, like, he's been showing up at the Eras Tour. He even did like a watch party with his wife, also named Taylor. My Scorpio moon could never, but good for them that they're able to like be friends and be supportive of her. Now, it might also be the fact that it was 2009 when they dated, meaning they were both pretty young. So maybe it was like nothing more than like hand holding and a little bit of a kiss. That would make sense. But if we look at their relationship and their placements, we can see why she is one of the exes that she really looks at fondly, even to this day. She wrote Back to December about him, one of the only songs where she's been very complimentary about an ex. So let's check out his chart. he has his moon in Taurus, making him, again, someone that craves stability. I would say that that would be very compatible with her Cancer moon. There's just that stability component. She would be the more emotional one of the two, and it might be kind of hard for him to understand that emotional nature. Also, people with a Cancer moon, their emotions can change quickly, just like how the moon will change signs every few days. Cancer people can sometimes experience little mood shifts, which is kind of hard for a Taurus moon who is so stable and kind of the same from day to day. So then we look at the Mars compatibility. He has his Mars in Capricorn, and she has her Mars in Scorpio. Again, not great. This, similar to the last person we talked about, between an Earth placement, that desire for control, the desire for stability, Capricorn is one of like the power signs, just like Scorpio. So both of them crave a similar, they really need this feeling of being powerful, of being kind of in control. And that can be a little toxic at times, but putting those two together, I just feel like it would be like, who's the leader here, But again, predictable, stable, Capricorn, Taurus placements, they're just very upfront. What you see is what you get. And then if we look at the Venus, he also has his Venus in Capricorn. So, okay, I'm just going to say this totally makes sense that this would be like the guy that you would have a crush on, who there's just really not a lot of passion or fire, which is probably why you could like stay friends with them, even think fondly, back to the situation like, oh, I should have made that work, Could even be the one that got away in your mind once you're dating people like John Mayer and Jake Gyllenhaal, who don't treat you very well. Because his placements, they really are kind of a stable, upfront, honest. Taurus moon energy is like very cuddly, like just they want to give you a hug and just like take care of you and protect you. So I can see why it didn't work out. Not a lot of passion in the placements, but definitely stable. And like, I think he's a good person, seems sweet. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that she would write such a sweet song about him. And it's just like, yeah, you can see it. Okay, now we get into some of the bigger life lessons in love, starting with John Mayer. Okay, in 2009, Taylor started to date John Mayer. They worked together. They were on stage. They did some songs. And they have both spoken publicly about their relationship. Now, she was 19 at the time and he was 32, which I think is just kind of a crazy age gap. Maturity-wise, wow, at 19, like I feel like your brain's not even fully developed till 25, but then also someone who's 32, like they've lived life, especially John Mayer with all of the relationships he's had. He already has kind of a reputation. So I feel like she was in a position where she was very vulnerable. And I think she learned a lot really quickly in that relationship about what she doesn't want. So let's look at his birth chart because he's kind of an intriguing figure. He just has such a bad reputation, truly. His moon is in Sagittarius, first of all. And this is interesting because we're not really talking about sun sign placements, but I will bring up her Sagittarius sun because we know that if your moon sign is the same as someone's sun sign, that's one of the major attraction potential like marriage placements. Not saying they were destined to get married. They definitely weren't. But that's a strong, strong pull between two people. And it kind of tells us that maybe they came together to learn some really important lessons about themselves and about life and love in general. All right, so he has that Sagittarius moon. Obviously, there's attraction there. Now, Sagittarius craves freedom, fun. It's, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, so it's like expansive, kind of an energy where you can never pin them down. And I've got to tell you, men with a Sagittarius moon or a Gemini moon, until they are mature and decide that they want to be in a relationship and it's something they're looking for, they're the hardest to date, to get to like commit, pin down, trust. And again, once they're ready to commit, I feel like they find that desire for like freedom and fun within their relationship. But before they make that decision, it's just FY energy. So there's that. And, someone who's craving freedom against her moon sign, craving security, just no. It's a no right away. And then he has his Mars in Cancer. Now, this also adds another layer of difficulty because having your Mars in Cancer means that you would be passionately attracted and interested in people who have qualities of nurturing. So the fact that she has a Cancer moon, even though their moon signs are not compatible, his Mars in Cancer would be very, very drawn to her, almost like a magnet. And she would be very drawn to him, thinking that that's his true nature, but really that's just his Mars. So it's almost like you get into a situation with someone thinking that they're one way, like very nurturing and kind. And then I think the further she got into the relationship, his Sagittarius moon started showing and he was very detached. So not great. Then if we go to his Venus in Virgo, we see that again, he's attracted to, Virgo's associated with like youth. And this is kind of weird, but we're just going to talk about it. Virgo's associated with the maiden, youth. So I can also see why he would probably be attracted to a relationship with someone younger, whether that's, I don't really think that's healthy, but it looks like that's kind of the way that played out. So I definitely see her being the more vulnerable person in the situation, but I think she learned a lot from it. And it was probably a big turning point in the way that she views love and relationships. This was also the start of a new kind of, era. What year was she in? Personal year. Let me see. Okay. She was in a 9 personal year when she started dating John Mayer. And something to know about 9 personal years, this is when you may get like a wish fulfillment, but sometimes it's just part of like an ending. So I think this was the closing out of this like fantasy idea of love, because we see her music really starting to get like more mature as the years start to go by. Yeah, John Mayer, it was kind of the end of her, naivete. And she's even talked about that. Okay, so next we had Corey Monteith, who's passed away. So we'll just say rest in peace. They dated in 2010. There was a huge crush there. He has moon in Capricorn, Mars in Libra, Venus in Aries. Not going to say too much about this, but I just think that there was a lot of friendship and attraction. She even talked about in some articles that she had a huge crush on him and she kind of had to hide it from her mother because her mom thought he was kind of like a bad boy. So again, more crushes. I don't think that it really went further than that. Okay, now getting serious again. So we had John Mayer. I think we had a little bit of a break, just some crushes. Then Jake Gyllenhaal, the next kind of major inflection point. Now, she dated Jake Gyllenhaal from the end of 2010 to the beginning of 2011. And we know that we got some great songs out of that situation. There was a huge crush there. She was really, really into him. And I think that this was a situation where there could have been maybe some love bombing. Maybe it was just still her being kind of young, but let's look at his chart. So he has his moon in Gemini. Oh my God, wait, did I not just say people with their moon in Gemini or Sagittarius? All right, so yeah, moon in Gemini, FY energy, Mars in Capricorn, Venus in Sagittarius. All right, so here's the breakdown of this. So with his moon in Gemini, I feel like this would really be attractive to her Venus in Aquarius because air signs tend to really like each other, and particularly Aquarius and Gemini, because both are very interested in like communication and knowledge and things that are like different and ever changing. So both can get a little bit bored with like too much stability or too much of the same thing every day. So I think that when she connected with him, it was her Venus, which obviously romance, that side of her was really, really turned like all the way up. But again, just like John Mayer, a Gemini moon is not going to be able to provide that stability, safety, and like kind of just coziness that her Cancer moon really needs to be able to like open up and feel safe. All right, his Mars in Capricorn, we already know that can be a power struggle with her Mars in Scorpio. So there's that. And then his Venus in Sagittarius. So another placement that is very much about variety, change, Sagittarius, when I'm looking at a compatibility birth chart, if I see Sagittarius, I always look to see like, okay, well, how old is this person? Now, if they're like older than 35, typically they will have channeled that energy into being able to be more committed. But I think until they've seen enough of the world or dated enough people, there's this restlessness with Sagittarius placements where they just feel this desire to see more. It's like, I feel like I'm missing out. Like that's kind of how they feel internally. So having his Venus in Sagittarius means that he's probably someone that's going to choose to settle down way later in life. And we see that I think he's still single. I think or like unmarried. Maybe he'll never get married. Sagittarius is the adventurer. So they just need a lot of experiences in their life before they feel like they're not missing out. So for her, this would be really attractive. Like, I think his placements are very attractive and intriguing. He has the power, the interesting, ability to like have a good conversation with Gemini. Sagittarius, like that's also conjunct her sun. So I think there was a lot of attraction, which is why it moved kind of quickly. She even met his family, but ultimately their placements just don't quite match up. It's kind of more the perfect setup to feel let down, for it to like not really be that stable energy that she needs and wants. Okay. And also All Too Well, written about Jake Gyllenhaal. So you can just listen to that and you'll see what that kind of would feel like. It's like being interested in someone, but it's just not really meant to be. Okay. And then we have Adam Young. Now, this was a really super short situation. Like the last two people I have on here, super short-lived, more of just like kind of crushes. Like I said, in part 2, we're going to do Eddie Redmayne through Travis Kelce. It gets super juicy there. But I think we're seeing the setup for Taylor. She kept being attracted to people like Adam Young, another Gemini moon, Cord Overstreet, a Cancer moon. So this is when I think things kind of took a turn. But for Adam Young, he definitely is very similar to like the charts of the other people. Gemini moon, Capricorn Mars, power struggle, Venus and Leo. That is the complete opposite of her Venus and Aquarius. So that's an attraction, but it's kind of karmic. Like it's not going to you're really not going to be on the same page there. And then Cord Overstreet, we see things kind of starting. I think she's kind of starting to like realize what she needs and wants because he had a Cancer moon just like her, Venus in Aquarius just like her, but then Mars in Taurus. So there was a power struggle. So we're seeing the evolution of Taylor's love life, what she's attracted to, what she's into. And I think that it's going to take a pretty big turn in part 2. So I hope that gave you guys some good like foundational knowledge of the people that Taylor has dated. I think it's super interesting to look at it alongside her personal years. When she started dating like in 2011, that's when she entered a 2 personal year. So she was learning even more about relationships, about partnerships. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're going to see it continue to unfold next episode. So you guys subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Be sure to connect on YouTube and Instagram, and I will see you guys next time for an all new episode.
Yay Networks.